Let's hop right in with Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's pick for defense secretary, back on Capitol Hill yesterday for a fourth consecutive day of meetings with senators, despite some reports suggesting Donald Trump is considering other options now amid heavy allegations of drinking and sexual misconduct. Hegseth said the president-elect still is backing his nomination to head the Defense Department.
What did President-elect Trump tell you, Mr. Hegseth?
He's behind us all the way. Spoke to him this morning.
Are there any circumstances where you would withdraw from this process?
I'm here with the support of President Donald Trump. As long as he supports me, which he told me this morning, I'll be here. I'm a different man than I was years ago. And that's a redemption story that I think a lot of Americans appreciate. And I know from fellow vets that I've spent time with, they resonate with that as well. I'm not going to back down from them one bit. I will answer all of these senators' questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group, none of you, not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee, and I answer to my Lord and Savior. And my wife and my family.
Pete Hegseth speaking yesterday on Capitol Hill. At least two of the Republicans Hegseth met with yesterday, Senators Mike Rounds and Rick Scott, expressed support for him later in the day.
I know that there's allegations out there. They have been unsubstantiated at this stage of the game. I talked to him about that. I gave him some suggestions, some advice about how he might be able to handle that. I'm looking forward to getting information from him in terms of responding to those allegations, but I really do see a path forward for him to be successful in being accepted by the Senate for this position.
I just had a great meeting with Pete, the next Secretary of Defense. I think he's going to do a great job. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he's confirmed as the Secretary of Defense. I think we all have to really appreciate the people that are willing to put on the uniform and defend the freedom of this country.
Rick Scott there of Florida, preceded by Mike Rounds, both Republicans saying they support Pete Hegseth. Hegseth can only afford to lose 3 Republican votes, assuming all Democrats vote against him. And Republican Senator Joni Ernst, a veteran herself, remains someone to watch here. Here is what the combat veteran said on Fox News yesterday.
I did have a very long, lengthy discussion with Pete yesterday, and I do appreciate his service to the nation. I also am a combat veteran. So we talked about a number of those issues, and we will continue with the vetting process. I think that is incredibly important. So again, all I'm saying is we had a very frank and productive discussion, and I know that we will continue to have conversation in the upcoming months.
Okay, it doesn't sound on your answer that you've gotten to a yes. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. And if that is the case, it sounds to me as if the hearing will be critical for his nomination. Am I right about that?
I think you are right. I think for a number of our senators, they want to make sure that any allegations have been cleared, and that's why we have to have a very thorough vetting process.
So, Jackie, a lot of people, of course, watching Senator Joni Ernst, not just because of her experience in the United States military, but because Pete Hegseth has said repeatedly that women should not serve in combat. Joni Ernst, of course, served in combat herself. So there was a bit of a tone shift yesterday. In part, we heard from Mike Rounds and Rick Scott there, and we heard from Pete Hegseth himself saying, I spoke to Donald Trump this morning, and he offered his support despite all the reports we've been hearing about perhaps Governor DeSantis of Florida now stepping in to become the new choice. What are you hearing on the Hill this morning?
Yeah, Willie, well, there was even a little bit of a softening from Ernst herself, who actually went on the record last night in an interview with Real Clear Politics to definitively say that she was not leading the campaign against Hegseth and that she wasn't herself angling for the Department of Defense job, as she's come under fire from a lot of these big MAGA world figures, people like Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk and others who have called her out and criticized her for supporting Lloyd Austin during his confirmation process in the Biden administration, but casting doubt continuously on Hegseth. it seems like a number of other senators who have been on the fence or have some people have been wish casting that they perhaps might vote against him or haven't taken a definitive stance, said yesterday that they thought that Hegseth at least deserved to see a fair process. People like Senator John Curtis. But it does appear that Hegseth has gotten the full support of Donald Trump, despite some of these other names like Ron DeSantis swirling about to potentially replace him. We've been told that Trump has been telling staffers at Mar-a-Lago and his transition officials to defend him to the bitter end. We've seen this pivot in a media strategy of Hegseth allies and his lawyers going on the record, being combative, doing the media rounds. His wife has also been accompanying him in these meetings. His mother been making calls to senators directly. So they're really pulling out all the stops here to keep Hegseth in the game and try to work through this. We know that he is going to participate in the FBI background checks and has encouraged full transparency in the process, though we have also seen people like Senator Rick Scott and some others say that they don't necessarily believe they should be hearing from a woman who signed an NDA with Hegseth and was paid off by him to not disclose any allegations of sexual harassment.
You know, Jonathan, the FBI background check, it will be critical here because Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and his allies can attempt to dismiss reports from the media as attacks from the left. That's been their tact always and has been in this as well. But if the FBI comes out and substantiates some of this reporting, or if the FBI comes out and sheds new light on other problems with Pete Hegseth, that may give grounds for even Republican senators to come out and vote against him. But he did say, Pete Hegseth, yesterday, I talked to Donald Trump this morning. He said, I still have his support despite everything we've read about Ron DeSantis, Joni Ernst, and other possibilities stepping in.
Yeah, but we have learned that you have Donald Trump's support until the moment you don't. Right. That you right now, what I've heard from folks I've talked to connected to the process around Mar-a-Lago is that, yes, Trump is encouraging Hegseth to keep fighting. He's his guy for now. But he has indeed cast about for some other names, had some other conversations about whether it's Governor DeSantis or a few alternatives who could be replacement SecDef picks if Hegseth can't make it. And you make a good point about the FBI background checks. I mean, Trump in his world, they may dismiss those checks as also vestiges of the deep state. And they might say, well, that doesn't carry any water either. But other Republican senators, they'll think differently. And if some of these allegations are corroborated there, that could give them the excuse to definitively vote no. So at least, I mean, we've been through extensively on this show last couple of weeks about the lack of qualifications Hegseth has, and as well as all these very troubling allegations he denies. There did seem to be a little more receptiveness to him on Capitol Hill yesterday, but Joni Ernst, very non-committal. She's seen as the key vote. It's just hard to imagine her eventually, to use that phrase, getting to yes.
Well, I think they have to go through the motions, all of these senators, and look publicly like they're behind Pete Hegseth until they aren't. And Joni Ernst might be the only one who has any grit to actually say, hey, there's some problems here. Let's go through the full process. Let's see. Let's check out, all of these allegations. But that said, other senators behind closed doors are not necessarily jumping with joy over the prospect of having Pete Hegseth over an organization that has around 3 million employees, has a massive budget, the largest budget in Washington. So I really think that we're going to have to see, is the loyalty test going to be enough? And is Joni Ernst going to be pressured enough? Because you look at all the incoming on her, and that's not nothing. And yes, there's a long time until she would be primaried, if ever. But still, it's what I'm watching for. Mm-hmm.